The big news is that there is a direct accusation that Trump sexually assaulted a minor girl in the 1980s, and that the FBI interviewed this person extensively. And then they flagged this accusation in an internal presentation.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining The Left Hook. I am with investigative journalist Roger Sollenberger. He is formerly of the Daily Beast, award-winning investigative reporter, and now he's independent, which means he can write without fear or favor. He's from Austin, Texas, and I've been following him, and he's like, hey everyone, I think there's really big news. Hey everybody, hey everyone, big news here. Roger, tell us about what you discovered in the Epstein files.
The big news is that there is a direct accusation that Trump sexually assaulted a minor girl in the 1980s, and that the FBI interviewed this person extensively. And then they flagged this accusation in an internal presentation in DOJ by the FBI, the Task Force of Violent Crimes and the Child Sex Trafficking Task Force. They flagged this in a 21 slide presentation over this summer. Yeah.
Wow.
This summer. So this is I guess 6 years later, right? After this all went down, the interview, they're like, oh yeah, we'll pull this out and we'll put it as a bullet point in a comprehensive presentation that they gave about the Epstein case. It's highly detailed. It lists people who gave proffers. It lists the co-conspirators from the first case, just really detailed, presentation. Then there's this slide that says prominent names, and the first two bullet points are accusations against Donald Trump. The first one is the sexual assault allegation, and it's pretty graphic and disturbing, and it's also a violent assault, right? I mean, the sexual assault is violent, but then after, she, claims that she bit him, and then claims that he punched her in the head and kicked her out. And the FBI quite clearly found this person credible. Now, this does not mean that the accusation is true. It does not mean that they believe the accusation. It does not mean that they think the accusation is chargeable. We don't know, right? We don't know what kind of evidence could have been brought to bear. But this woman was also a Jeff Epstein victim and would have been one of the earliest accusers. And this was in early mid-1980s. She was between 13 and 15 years old, according to the files, right? So she lawyers up after she, gives this tip to the FBI. They go back and forth between her and her legal team, and she gives an interview. She gets Lisa Bloom's law firm to represent her in a case that she sued the Epstein estate, and apparently successfully. She settled. She received a settlement. This has been publicly reported. This is the same person that I've identified. So you have an Epstein victim who apparently successfully sued the Epstein estate over accusations in the early to mid 1980s. And while that was happening, she said one of the people, according to the files, one of the people who assaulted her was Donald Trump.
Yep.
So how do you divorce those two if you're thinking about in terms of credibility here, right? Again, I'm not trying to convince people that hey, this really happened. I do not know. I do not know if the DOJ was able to follow up. It seems like the woman also was afraid of retaliation. Now, in the FBI interview, which is I linked to in my report, in the interview, there's a lot of redacted stuff, right? But her attorney is
I'm
present.
looking at it right now. It's redaction, 1, 2, or date of birth, redaction, was interviewed at law office, redaction, office telephone number, redaction, was born in Binghamton, New York. Everything else redacted, moved to South Carolina with her mother and brothers during approximately last year.
Yeah, and then go to page 2.
Oh, wow.
Right?
First full paragraph redacted.
First 2 blocks.
Second 2 blocks redacted. Then you have the small paragraph, advised that until recently, blank was the only individual alive to whom blank confided incidents of abuse she endured when she was a child. A mother also knew what happened to blank, but her mother is deceased now. Blank never would have written down what happened to her. She did not keep a formal diary. She did not make any recordings or any kind of incidents. Blank advice. She met Jeffrey Epstein when she lived on, all redacted.
Yeah. And I've been able to piece these details together about her, right? But the further on in the interview, so we don't know what's behind those redactions. And we also don't know what they said in the back and forth between her lawyer and the FBI in advance of this interview, right? But the tip that was called in was the Donald Trump tip. Now, there's another pretty notorious document that, maybe a lot of people watching this might remember back in December that was released. And this was the time when DOJ was like, hey, just so you guys know, we're going to be releasing this stuff that has all these outrageous claims about Donald Trump in them. These claims are often false and they're unverified, and some of them are bizarre, and they are, right? Like a lot of those claims on that slide are just, really wild claims that I do not take at face value, right? And even one of them, the FBI flags on there and it says, this was followed up on or whatever. The sources, we've determined this is not credible, right? For one of those claims. Now, people on someone, I don't know who it was, but clipped that out of that table, that spreadsheet. And that's been circulating on social media as a rebuttal to what I reported, right?
Oh, interesting.
Right. So it's actually in the favor of my reporting. Because what that says is, well, the FBI said that this one wasn't credible. It's a different accuser.
So this one is credible.
They pulled it from the same sheet, but it's a different accusation.
There you go.
So, right. So the one I report is at the top of the sheet. They don't say that. They don't say it's not credible. They said that they talked to the caller, they got the identity of the woman, and they prepared to dispatch an agent to the Washington office. The interview took place at the Seattle field office, right?
Wow.
So then there's after this tip and they figure all this out, they get her identity, whatever. They're like, and there's one thing that says the information warrants a follow-up interview. They actually write that in another memo. Back and forth with the attorneys, they set up this interview. In the interview, the woman at one point, she doesn't seem to really have, my read on it is probably doesn't follow a whole lot of news very closely. And with the first Epstein indictment and the arrest and that investigation, how it became a sham, obviously, right? That was news at the time, but it wasn't explosive national news the way his 2019 arrest was, right? That boom, right, really exploded. She doesn't seem to have been aware of the first arrest, so she couldn't put it. She just had told this friend and had told her mother that this guy Jeff has made my life hell, right? He was the person.
She didn't put two and two together.
Yeah. And then she said she got a text from her friend, right? Remember, her friend called in the tip. She got a text from a friend. The friend called in the tip that was about Epstein and Donald Trump. And she said, my friend sent me this picture. That's how I know it's Jeff, right? Mm. And the agents are like, oh, well, you want to show us that picture? And then she's like, I don't know. And there's crosstalk, and the agents hear the word president, right? They hear the word president come up. And they're like, whoa, what was that? President? And the woman, this is memorialized in 302. Anyone can read this. You could read it right there, and then the woman says, yeah, I don't know. And the attorney answers for her. And the attorney says, my client, advises that she does not want to implicate, I'm paraphrasing here. You can read the quote if you want to, does not want to implicate powerful people out of fear of retaliation. It's not.
He said her attorney answered saying, quote, the lady's name, let's call her Jane Doe. Quote, Jane Doe was concerned about implicating additional individuals and specifically any that were well known due to fear of retaliation.
Yeah, and there are obviously a lot of options in front of that attorney to answer that question. One of them would be she doesn't want to implicate an innocent person, but he doesn't say that. He says, and then they crop the photo, they crop Trump out of the photo, and they show the photo of Epstein alone to the agents. They took a picture of it, the agents did, and that's in the files. I think I linked to it also. You can see the picture and it's the famous picture of Epstein and Trump, and the agents say that in the 302. They say, oh, right, this is the widely distributed photograph
Yeah.
Jeffrey
Of note,
Epstein.
the particular image sent to her was recognized by FBI agents as the widely distributed photograph of Epstein and the current United States President, Donald Trump. The woman's Epstein victimization occurred in the 80s when the caller was approximately 13 to 15 years old, resided in the blank area of South Carolina. The reported victim provided enough preliminary information to warrant a follow-up interview. I just want to add this because you wrote this. This is from Roger's fantastic piece, which I've already shared. I'll share again. This is Roger Sollenberger, independent reporter. These biographical details match the initial tip, which notes a criminal history in South Carolina. They also match public reporting about a South Carolina victim who relocated to Vancouver, close to Seattle, who filed a lawsuit against Epstein, receiving a settlement from his estate in 2021.
Yeah. So what you have here is somebody, a woman, who says, apparently credibly enough, that Jeff Epstein's estate settled with her, right? She received a settlement, reportedly, right, in 2021. So despite the lack of hard evidence that she might have, the interview that she gave the FBI is pretty detailed. Again, I can't vouch for what's true here, but I can say, well, it seems the estate thought she had a point.
Why would they settle, right? I mean, even settlement isn't admission of guilt, but
It's
they
not.
settled.
But they settle, right? And again, we don't know. I just know that typically, in my experience reporting, right, in my experience talking with lawyers for countless reports that involve legal issues like this, civil matters like this that settle, typically, not always, but typically you settle and it's okay. It's because something is true here. There's something to the accusations. Right?
I mean, this is going to be, folks, just a warning. I'm going to say, read something disturbing, but I think it's important that we know what she accused.
It's a really disturbing, and again, like, it can sound absurd, like, oh no, there's no way that Donald Trump could have done that, right? It's like, well,
I just wanted to warn people.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to mute it for 30 seconds. It's very graphic. It's very disturbing. All right, here we go. The Jane Doe stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down to his exposed penis, which she subsequently bit. The presentation says, FBI presentation. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. The victim would have been approximately 13 to 15 years old when this occurred, according to the presentation. The alleged assault took place in the early to mid 80s, and the same woman also claimed to be an Epstein victim. The same woman won a settlement with the Epstein estate in 2021. According to Roger's fantastic reporting, the FBI last summer included this in a detailed slideshow presentation.
Yeah. And it's a very serious slideshow presentation. And the other claims on this slide, by the way, on that, which I crop out and share and link to, and everyone can see this. I'm not like, people are like, is this real? Is this true? It's like, yeah, it's just all in the files. I didn't get any special, help or sourcing or anything with that. Like, you can just put it together in the files. So the slideshow has other claims against other prominent.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But can I ask you a quick question about this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
If the DOJ, right, FBI, DOJ, if the FBI and the DOJ was aware of this, how come there was no follow-up, Roger?
Well, we don't know if there was no follow-up. I mean, I've got a lot of questions about that. I don't again, I put this out there as basically a letter to, Congress, to people in the press, to other investigators, hey, stop saying that he wasn't credibly accused of this, because by the FBI's own judgment, it was credible. Now, again, does that mean chargeable, right? Does that mean I don't even know if the victim or her attorneys may have reached out to Trump. Did they reach out to him, right? Was there some discussion? Did they come to an understanding? We don't know. And there are plenty of reasons that, you can think of that a prosecutor might not be able to bring this case, right? Some of them might be evidentiary. Some of them might be because they actually looked into it and they're like, actually, this one doesn't check out. That's possible, right? Another thing that's possible is that they're like, well, we could, but we would need her to cooperate. And the prosecution, and what you have in that 302 is basically her attorney saying, we're only talking about Jeff here, right? Epstein has been arrested at that point. He was alive and in prison on July 24th, 2019, when this interview took place. Okay. And Donald Trump is not arrested and in prison. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. So it is possible. It's speculative. I have no idea. But maybe there's no evidence. There's not enough evidence. Maybe they didn't believe her ultimately, even though she's credible. Maybe they didn't really believe this exact claim happened, or they couldn't corroborate it. But maybe she just didn't want to cooperate in a prosecution against the sitting president of the United States because she was terrified. That's also possible.
You're right.
It's also possible that, who knows, maybe the Biden, maybe they sat on it. Who knows what happened to it.
But it's there. They knew about it. So
it's there.
Is this a credible accusation against Epstein and the president of the United States? The FBI found it credible. The FBI included it in a presentation. Like, you're right, both the presentation and the email chain were created last summer. Folks, this is recent. Around the time
they flagged it out of all these files, they pulled this claim, right?
Around the time Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell for anachronistic jailhouse proffer. And we've talked about that proffer, and we've talked about this a lot. Todd Blanche is Donald Trump's personal attorney. Todd Blanche has no business going and talking to Ghislaine Maxwell. The person who should have talked to her was the prosecutor. The prosecutor was Maureen Comey. What happened the week before? Maureen Comey was fired, of course. So then Todd Blanche leaves D.C., goes and talks to Ghislaine Maxwell for 2 days. And less than a week after that conversation, Ghislaine Maxwell gets an unprecedented transfer from Florida to Texas, where right now she has a dog, yoga, gets special treatment. To this day, no one knows why she, with her record, got that special transfer and treatment. We know, but we don't know. And furthermore, Ghislaine Maxwell, if you all recall, gave a very flowery, very pro Donald Trump, alleged, confession / a statement. And then just recently, 2 weeks ago, her attorney, when she pled the fifth, her attorney said, "Oh, she is ready to say that Donald Trump did nothing wrong if she gets a commutation." Roger, this to me, this is.
I'd like to pull one thing she said from that proffer that's interesting. I don't know what I'm paraphrasing this, but she said that she didn't really think Epstein killed himself, right?
Yes.
That's okay. Well, guess what happened with this interview? The 302 back in 2019. Remember, July 24th, 2019, Epstein is alive. He says the night before, there was the first, they call it a suicide attempt. He claims he was attacked, right? That was the night before the interview, which had been pre-scheduled. This interview is not entered into the case file until August 9th. Now, I spoke with Frank Figluzzi. Yes, I was not aware of what Frank told me yesterday. And this guy's in the FBI for 25 years. And he says, well, when I was there, you have 5 days to write up your interview into what's called a 302 form, right? You have 5 days to do it and file it and enter it into the case system, right? So this was July 24th, and they blew the 5-day deadline. And Frank was like, this is really late, right? Because it was August 9th. So it's 16 days. That's pretty late. August 9th is the next morning, Epstein's found dead in his cell. The morning after this is entered into. So what happened? Why was this late? What can explain that?
So the morning after it was entered, he's dead. Yeah,
and that's just that I don't know. I couldn't ignore that. That is fucking weird, man. That's really weird. And then I didn't know that it was, an exceptionally atypically late entry into the system too. So they took a long time. I don't know what was going on there, And then, her case file, I actually put her case file number in the report, and people can look that up. They can search it, and they can see all the documents that are affiliated with her case. And
yeah, data entry, August 9th, 2019. Wow.
Yeah. So you can, audience out there, you can enter that number in. You can see for yourself what files are available from this. And if you're going ordinally, right, serially, there appear to be some records missing from this case file. It's also, so her numbers is 3501.045. President 45. Is that a coincidence? Or are they like, hey, this, wink, wink, we have to do something with this special accuser? I don't know. But the 3500 thing, like, there's a manifest of what's called 3500 material. And it's material from witnesses, from victims. And on that manifest, the material starts on the DOJ's own manifest. It doesn't start at 3501. It starts at 3502, a different person, right? So is this missing from, did they split this off? Did they sever it into like, hey, this stuff is no longer the Epstein files. This goes into a Trump case, right? And if you start thinking about the files that way, if that's possible, that might explain why they can say, yeah, we gave you everything. Because what if they severed stuff off? Like, what if all of a whole lot of this information that we're not seeing about, powerful men who are clearly really close to this guy in disturbing ways, that have unsettling allegations against them in all sorts of ways, right? What if some of those, the DOJ, ahead of the discharge petition, severed these off into like different cases? They're like, actually, no, this is it's not Epstein. Right. That's a Leon Black file or whatever. Right. That could be one explanation for why things are missing that technically might not violate the law. And again, these are all questions that I have that I think are legitimate, 100% legitimate questions that should be answered. I don't have high hopes that we're going to get answers or honest answers.
We need Kash Patel and Pam Bondi to appear in front of a House committee and to answer questions. We need actually to see the slideshow that was prepared by the FBI. Who prepared the slideshow? What was in the slideshow? Who saw the slideshow? What was done as a follow-up? Was this buried? Was this covered up? What's the timeline? These are questions that I would want to be asked and answered, Roger, if I'm an elected official.
Yeah.
Transparency, right? Because if this says, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to lose. That's what I've always said with anyone involved in the Epstein files. And I've said this about Donald Trump. Okay, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to lose. It is in your interest to be transparent, to quash any doubt that the world now has. And instead, it seems what we've seen for the past year is, instead of, being transparent, literally, I'm going to quote the President of the United States now, Donald Trump, it's time to move on. It's time to move on, Roger. It's time to move on.
He didn't say my name, but
yeah, Roger Sollenberger, it's time to move on. Stop it. Stop digging, Roger.
Along these lines, like, can I like interrupt real quick, jump in? Yeah. Because my report has two accusations.
That I was about to get there.
Yeah, right. Okay, great. Yeah, because to your point, the other one is I don't want to give it, like, say it's equal weight, because the first one is
they're both terrible,
unspeakably bad, direct accusation of assault, right? But the second one is important to what the White House and what Trump have been saying over the past year about the timeline and his relationship with Epstein. Now, Trump over the years has given all sorts of different public statements about his relationship with Epstein. In 2016, Alan Garten, who's one of his lawyers at the Trump Organization, told Fox News in a report about Jeff Epstein and Bill Clinton, like, he's quoted on the record saying Trump had nothing to do with Jeff Epstein, like, at all. Like, that's a complete lie, and everyone knew it was a lie. But he said that, and it was in the middle of the 2016 campaign that this came out, right? Now, the White House's line that they have just driven straight into the fucking ground for months is kick Jeff Epstein out of his club for being a creep, right? In the mid-2000s, when he found out about this stuff, whatever, he kicked him out for being a creep. Well, what we have here in this presentation is an accusation that is again, from a credible person. I'll get to her credibility in a bit. But the accusation is Jeff Epstein introduced this girl at the time, 14 years old, to Donald Trump, saying, this is a good one, right? Now, if you search that in the files, you'll see like there is a typo on this slide deck. This says it's 1984, but like that doesn't match, like literally nothing in the files matches that at all. But there's the exact same claim is actually 1994.
That makes sense.
Right? It's the same, it's like, this is a good one, right? This took place at Mar-a-Lago, at his club. So like, okay, did you kick him out for being a creep then? You know, no, you waited a decade, right, to kick him out for being a creep when he was introducing you to this 14-year-old girl in 1994. Now, the now woman who makes this claim, she is like the DOJ is legally obligated to say that she's credible because they used her as a key witness to testify at trial against Ghislaine Maxwell. And she helped the DOJ lock up Ghislaine. Now, if the DOJ comes out and says, oh yeah, she's not credible. I mean, if I'm Ghislaine's attorneys, right? Like, oh, well, let me file an appeal. You used somebody that the DOJ says is not credible as a key witness against me, and you knew she wasn't credible against me? No, they're obligated to. That's how credible they found her story. And it did. The jury believed it, right? Ghislaine got convicted, thanks in part to this woman who was one of 4 witnesses to testify against Ghislaine. This woman also happens to say in her notes with the FBI, in her interviews, she says this in a lawsuit that she also files against the Epstein estate and also wins. She makes this claim there too. At Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump, this is a good one, right? Trump agrees. Okay, so that's a credible claim, and that contradicts everything that Trump and the White House have been trying desperately to get people to pretend to believe, for the past year, whatever.
It's my pause is not that I'm in a loss of words. I'm rarely at a loss of words. It's just disgust that this happened, and what we're witnessing clearly, and I've been saying it since the summer, is a cover-up. Just looking at the evidence of my eyes and ears, Roger, I want to remind everyone that the Wall Street Journal, that flaming leftist rag, the Wall Street Journal, last year said that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, last April informed Donald Trump that he's all up in the files. And then when he was asked about it publicly, I believe it was CBS News at the time or ABC News, he lied. We've also seen what happened with Ghislaine Maxwell. We've also seen what's happened with the drip of the files, and now they're saying they're not going to release anymore. We've also seen the reporting. Allison Gill's done the reporting where the FBI, around this time in the spring, folks, last year, they were asked, and this never happens, the unit said you cannot leave for 24 to 48 hours. And they had to go through the Epstein files. They did not go through the Epstein files to investigate and to bring justice for the girls. Oh no, their single job was to find and flag Donald Trump's name and scrub it. And they were all, according to Allison's reporting, based on a tip, anonymous tip, they were all using the same accessible Excel sheet, which means some of those FBI agents have access to some of this information, and they saw things that deeply disturbed them. And now we know, thanks to Roger's fantastic reporting, for those who are joining us a bit late, the 1,500 people, I'm talking to Roger Sollenberger, formerly of the Daily Beast, award-winning investigative reporter, who, from the Epstein files, folks, he found it. It's all there. You could go see it for yourself. He found a very credible allegation by a then 13 to 15-year-old girl accusing Donald Trump of sexual battery. This woman also accused Epstein. In 2021, folks, the Epstein estate settled with her. We know that the FBI flagged her case, flagged her story, and presented it within the DOJ in a presentation. This presentation and a slideshow. So if you look at the evidence before you, not only is she credible, but the Epstein estate found her, well, we assume credible enough that they settled with her. And the FBI did a slideshow presentation, and the FBI itself, not 2021, not 2019, 2025, right, Roger? Just less than a year ago. So what we're witnessing now is a young girl, now a woman, who is credibly accusing the president of the United States of raping her. And the Epstein estate settled with her in 2021. And the pattern of these two cases, or these two allegations, or rather, I should say this one in particular, is consistent with other allegations, we should say. Now, that's not proof, but the stories keep adding up, Roger, of Donald Trump's alleged behavior of violence.
Could I like leap in real quick here?
You can leap in anytime you want.
So I do want to make this point because it's a question I've always had, and I don't see it really asked a lot. But Donald Trump stole thousands and thousands of pages of sensitive government records, classified, some of it, not all of it, some of it national defense, right? We know this. He kept them. He didn't give them back. He only gave a few back. Then he lied, had his lawyers lie for him, right? In the Jack Smith investigation. That case ended up getting squashed. Eileen Cannon, running interference for Trump, kept pushing this thing back. He gets elected, and then she effectively kills the case. Smith drops the prosecution because you can't charge a sitting president. Thank you so much, OLC, right? But in February, at the end of February, on February 28th, the morning of February 28th, I believe, Donald Trump gets his documents back, right? Because the case is gone. So they're like, well, these are yours. And they return the documents to him. On the day before, Pam Bondi goes on Fox News, and she makes this big to-do about suddenly being surprised, like, I've asked for all the Epstein records, and now I've got thousands of pages. The FBI is telling me there's thousands of pages here of material that they never told me about before, and they just told me about it now. Who knows why? And she puts on this big show of being angry about this, and it's very conspiratorial the way she pictures it, right? This is the same time that she had just given the first Epstein files to all those right-wing influencers and, humiliated some of them, and they've turned their back on her at that point. But at the same time, she says, like, hey, there's this big thing, like, big cover-up. Who knows? They were Biden, DOJ was maybe hiding these things. I don't know. But she says, I'm ordering Kash Patel. She writes a letter to Kash Patel. Again, it's all public. You guys go read it. Says, hey, Kash, you were just as surprised as I was to learn about these documents. I want you to go investigate this, and I'm going to 2 weeks. I want a report back. And she goes out, and she's like a big, PR blitz about this thing. What happened to that report? The next morning, they give Trump the documents back. All right. And we don't know if they gave him all the documents. He was asked directly. The Washington Post reporting on this is actually great because they're like, at least some of the documents, because they asked the White House for comment and they asked them specifically about this, and they dodged that question.
Right.
Whether, and, who knows, like, some of this really sensitive national security stuff, I imagine he was convinced by his own people to be like, hey, that's important. We should probably have that. No offense, Don. You don't need that stuff. But what if he took Epstein stuff? Why would we assume that he wouldn't take it? Donald Trump, like, look what he took. Why wouldn't he take that?
Well,
right?
And a good reminder, folks, because I know that we're dealing with so much. Same man who took confidential information from the White House and stored it in Mar-a-Lago. And after repeated requests by the FBI, he deliberately lied and or conveniently forgot he had the secret information, which led to the raid. So a man with that type of, like you said, behavior and pattern, is it surprising? Is it shocking that he would take this, especially if it implicates him?
The day that Pam makes this big thing and sends this letter, right? The FBI enters evidence in the Epstein file, the Master Epstein Manifest. I mentioned this in my reporting. The Master Epstein Manifest says evidence, it's like acquired on. And then the first 4 pieces of evidence, it's chronologically descending, right, are from last year. And it was February 27th. It was the day that she talks about learning about these new records. That's one, right? And then on March 10th, when that all hands review that you were talking about like, hey, look for Donald Trump's name as reported, right? That review on March 10th, there's 3 more entries in there, right? So is this new evidence in the Epstein case right around that time for some reason? What new evidence did you get? Or is this stuff that you acquired and you already had this master manifest built for your project of the redactions and, combing through whatever, and hey, this is stuff that we found somehow or was returned to us, that we've entered subsequently, right? We had to enter it, at this place up top. It's seems like it's new to the files. So a huge question there. And I think it's an absolutely legitimate question. And, there's, I have a gripe that, things have been about the media here. I've not been willing to take this on in a way that feels, honest to me, like an honest way, a common sense way, logical way of looking at some of these fact patterns, and who knows, the answers might be exonerating. I have no clue, but
I'll give you a little clue.
Roger, Lev wanted to chime in because he was listening to you and he had some background information on some of the stuff you said, and he also wanted to ask you a question.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Roger? I always have information for Roger. So part of that question that you just asked, let me give you a little bit of what I've actually been reporting on and going more into. So when Bill Barr, that's why 2019 obviously was a very important year. And when Epstein got arrested, part of that whole campaign was to protect Donald Trump. A lot of people, and me and you spoke about this a lot of time, Bill Barr and Trump were not friends. Bill Barr was protecting the institution, trying to protect and everything that was going on. When Bill Barr came into office in, I think, January or February of 2019, the files that were handed to him on his desk was my file with Rudy Giuliani. It was the Epstein file that was going on the investigation, and there was another file. There was 3 files, two of those that I know of exactly, that Bill Barr was personally being reported to on a daily basis of what was going on. Bill Barr was making sure that, just like what you're reporting in the Epstein, which was incredible reporting about the 9th of August, all of a sudden, a situation happening. Same thing happened in my case, as you remember. All of a sudden, when I got subpoenaed not subpoenaed, but when the whistleblower complaint came out, and Bill Barr was the first one to see and knew that the House Judiciary was going to investigate and subpoena me and Igor to get the information, all of a sudden, there was a rush to indict me, arrest me, make me look to be a Russian spy, and have that whole process. The thing that I'm hearing is that Donald Trump never was aware. Bill Barr never shared with him anything that was in the Epstein files. Donald Trump had no idea what was in the Epstein files. Donald Trump had no access to him. He had little blurts, whatever certain FBI agents like Solomon or others that we had inside that would give him. But Donald Trump never had any clue, and that's why all of this run. And you're 100% right that a lot of some of the stuff that was taken might have even been, I can't confirm, but might have been some of the stuff, because what they realized is when after Bondi went and said, we got all this stuff, and they actually started researching it, looking into it. And when all of the shit started coming out, they started realizing not only Donald Trump's involvement, but everybody else and everything that was coming out. That's when the shit hit the fire. That's when Donald Trump did a 360 and basically said, hold a second, July 6th, get rid of it. And that's when everything happened. So yeah, you're 100%. Donald Trump had no idea until they told him. And that's when the single shift happened, because till then, Barr and others, and the reason they sat on it and everything, that's great questions that need to be answered. But that's one of the things I wanted to say to you. But the other thing is, obviously, I wanted to also bring up the point a little bit about Alexander Smirnov. If we could talk a little bit about what's going on, that's such a crazy thing that the world doesn't even know about that's happening. Obviously, you were involved in that with me behind the scenes. You knew a little bit about what's happening when there's arrests and now all of a sudden being released. If you don't mind.
Roger, go ahead, man.
Oh yeah, so Smirnov is notorious now for making this claim about Joe Biden and an alleged bribe, and they the Republicans in Congress, James Comer, essentially constructed their impeachment inquiry right around this. This would have been the most explosive claim and the closest that they could get to like nailing Joe Biden for whatever corruption or bribe or influence peddling or whatever. Right. This claim was made by Alexander Smirnov, who's Russian Israeli citizen, been living in the United States for a long time, alleged to be an intelligence source, and the FBI arrested him for lying to them about that claim. Like
They first
that
used
claim.
it, and then they arrested him for it.
Yeah, that claim. Right. So the impeachment inquiry, it did get, James Comer made it rain. He did get he did get some bracelets on somebody, right? But it was on their source, right? Or the source that underpins like basically the thrust of that whole, really just benighted effort. But yeah, Smirnoff was arrested and he was being held flight risk in Las Vegas, I believe. And
Los Angeles first, they held him. They
yeah,
rearrested him in Los Angeles, yeah.
oh yeah, he's at the airport. But I think he's like
Yeah.
when here they've been holding him in Las
Vegas,
Vegas.
yeah. Oh,
And
no, he was in LA for 6 months. In LA for 6 months. He was in the Twin Towers. And I'll give you the back end of it.
okay,
Go ahead.
fair enough. I mean, yeah, I am
You know, I was
going on
okay.
memory here.
I'll give you some background, but go ahead.
Yeah, and apparently the reporting from this was in November. This report just came out that in November, that in May, Alexander Smirnov was quietly released from prison and the reporting is that it was medical leave. I think he has, I'm not sure
His
if
eyes.
it's glaucoma or something, but he
Yeah.
is, his lawyer says that he's essentially blind. I don't know what he might be back. Do you know about that? I don't know if he's,
Yeah, he's not
is
back.
he back in? Do you know?
No. Yeah, I'm gonna give you an update. That's why I wanted you to give a little bit
Yeah,
background
but
on
we
it.
still don't know. I mean, the New Republic article that we talked about yesterday, Lev, is that the
Well,
facility.
Roger gave it to me. Roger's the one that put me on this.
I mean, the facility itself, when they were asked, "Hey, where is this guy?" They're like, "Yeah, we kind of don't know where he is for the last 3 months." And so the
Yeah.
question I have is, where is he? Where'd he go?
Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo? No, that's interesting because Roger, we were talking about, I called Roger yesterday to congratulate him on this great work that he did breaking the story. And he just, sent me this. He said, by the way, did you see this? And sent me that article. And I was like, holy shit. Like, are you kidding me? Because I was intricately involved in that whole scenario, going back to the not only part of the Biden, but a lot of people don't know. I'll give you guys a little bit story time with Lev, a little bit really interesting information that nobody knows, but Roger knows a little bit of it. A lot of it. But basically, when Alexander Smirnov was arrested and started pushing the lie that he heard that basically that he had information that he heard that Biden took a bribe of $5 million. That was the same time when I was arrested, and Bill Barr was sealing my information and hiding it because in my information, in my documentation, there was text messages between me and the CEO of Burisma asking him that question: did Joe Biden ever give you a bribe? That John Solomon had me ask him, and he responded, "No, there was never a conversation." So there was evidence in my files that would exonerate Biden and exonerate them from whatever Smirnov was saying. So when Smirnov came out and I started seeing this, I was just got out of. I was just out of prison. I think it was, Roger, right? I think I
It
don't
wasn't
remember.
long. Yeah, I don't think it
Yeah,
was long.
I was just out of prison or something, and I was still. So I was
2024,
started.
February
Yeah,
2024, I think.
yeah, and I started tweeting on, because I just had a Twitter account opened up, and I started tweeting saying this is a lie. This he couldn't have heard that. Look at my files, and lo and behold, I got contacted by the Biden team, and me and Hunter became very close. You guys know the story. We're close today. We actually just spoke a little while ago about this, Roger. About, I mean, he can't believe the shit that's going on, and and we were discussing it, but it brought me back to remembering how that thing whole played out, because I remember. So I'll give you a little story. So Alexander Smirnov's cousin, who was his only source relative here, who was by his side at the time when he was being arrested, she lived in Miami, and everybody was trying to get a hold of her, who she was. And one day I'm sitting next to my wife, and I see her phone go off. I mean, like, you can't make this shit up. Like, Roger knows my life is all crazy like this. I look at her phone, and it's a text message from Smirnov's cousin to my wife saying, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. I really need to speak to your husband. Something important." And I asked my wife, like, how do you know her? Well, she goes to me, we grew up in Los Angeles, and that's where Smirnov was from. In LA, they were close. So basically, she reached out because Smirnov was at that time, they turned on him. Because remember, he was their informant. He was giving them information. He was their golden child. And then all of a sudden, they flipped on him and used him as a scapegoat, basically, to shut. The reason they used him as a scapegoat, they needed to close the investigation. They needed Weiss and all of them to shut it down because it was leading to too many things to open up a can of worms they didn't want to. So they basically arrested him, and he was scared. He was locked up. They held him there for like 6 months. He does have glaucoma, actually, eye condition, but I don't know to what degree. And his only source of family was his cousin, which through me asked for help. And I initially reached out not only to, I'm not going to mention their Congress people that were aware of the situation, but also to the Biden team. And I became an intricate intermediary between Smirnov, his legal team, the Biden team, and all of this going on. And at some point, I could tell you that we were Smirnov was at a point where he was going to say something. He was going to say something because there was something very important in his case that disappeared. The tape recordings of his conversations with his handler, the notes with the conversations with his handler, the accusations that were being made that he says he could be up that were being lied, because the accusation that I was feeling from what was being told to me through his cousin and the way the family was saying was that basically his handler kind of told him to say the things that he was saying on that 302 or 1023, whatever, that he changed all of a sudden because the way it went through. And if you take a look at the way it went through and it didn't go through normal protocols, and it was started making sense. I started having more conversations with his lawyers and Biden's team, and we were getting to it. They started having discussion until one day, all of a sudden, his lawyer called me up and told me basically, "Listen, Lev, I think Alexander is going to go a different way." And that's when I got a call from one of my friends, and I have lots of sources saying to me, "I think they got to him." I'll never forget that day. I called Hunter Biden. I said, "Hunter, they got to him. He's going to flip." Two hours later, Abby Lowe calls up and says he's not talking to us anymore. Literally, one day later, they announced a plea deal, that he was getting this plea deal. And now here we are. And after you sent me that, Roger, I made some phone calls. So now I'm hearing that there's real conversation about Trump pardoning him and bringing him back into the light and trying to rehash. And because Trump is obsessed with pushing that whole thing, proving the point that the Bidens were corrupt. And there's a lot of pushback on it. But there's right now, that's what I heard after you sent me that article the past day I've been looking into.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stands out to me all the time about this is, like, with Trump, like, it really is everything old is new again. It's all
Yeah.
these same things. Doesn't seem to have much imagination, right? I mean, and he's like, well, let's just keep doing
Yeah.
that. Let's try and find another way to do that same thing again.
He's trying to kill the pardons, all
And to
that.
that point, like, Lev, when you were first pinched, right? You were assigned some friendly attorneys, and
Yeah.
one of them being
Todd Blanche.
Todd Blanche. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. It all connects. And you, Roger, you made a good point, which we've said here on the Left Hook is the way I describe it is Donald Trump is like this aging crooner in a Las Vegas bar who only has the same old hits he can play. And as he gets older, he just goes back to the same old hits, but it doesn't seem to work anymore. Real quick question, Roger. I mean, it's all
yeah.
speculation. Where do you think this guy is?
Smirnoff?
Yeah.
I mean,
He asked me that question.
I have no idea. It's possible. It's
In
possible that he's he had this
Israel.
medical leave or something, and he's back. And president might be under home confinement. I mean, yeah, there are those possibilities. I mean, we have no idea. We could probably find out. We could find out if he's
We're
asked
gonna find out.
TJ. This is not
Yeah.
something I've inquired into. By the way, it was a story I flagged for Lev because I was like, oh, did you hear about this? Because I thought he would obviously find that interesting. But
Right.
yeah,
Well,
I have no idea where he is, and
Lev,
well,
find us
oh,
out.
we're
No,
gonna
I'm just
find them. Yeah,
kidding.
no, me and Roger are gonna find them now. But not only that, the amazement of it, Roger, and that's why I said, "Wow, just think about this is a big deal." Just like Roger's reporting, and this is what I was writing in the comment. Just think about what Roger broke yesterday should be the biggest news out there. This should be right now breaking 24/7. Pushing pressure, and you don't hear anything about that. Like you turn on any news station, we're on to already a different news cycle. Like, are you kidding me? Same thing here. You got an actually Russian, admitted Russian Israeli spy being convicted of lying to start an impeachment of the president of the United States, and literally disappears for months. I mean, just if you think about the fact that the way it's that nobody even knew where he was for 3 months, we still don't know where he is, and all of a sudden, I mean, that's what I'm saying to you. Yeah, we're gonna definitely go get to the bottom of it. We're gonna find where he is, and we're gonna try to find out what's going on. I'm gonna help
yeah. It's
Roger.
just to be clear, we don't know if he's disappeared. I mean, he still
Yeah,
might
we
be
have
in
no idea.
custody, and if those talks are serious, right? Like if what you're saying about a potential pardon or whatever, if that's serious, then he would be smart to just be by the book and at home confinement, not just like, hey, I'm on my best behavior. Like that's entirely possible, inconsistent with what you're saying about if
Yeah.
there is a discussion of some sort of commutation or whatever.
Well, I'm
Right.
curious, and that's why I wanted to tell you. I'm curious, now for you to dig into it a little bit, see what you hear, because that's the beauty of it. You got your own sources, so we'll
Maybe
see
he's
what
at
you
home.
hear.
If he's at home, which home? Is he in Israel? Is that home? Is he,
Watch. I
is
was
he in
like,
a
where's home?
hospital?
Is
Like,
Russia? I mean, where's home? Is
I
Russia?
mean, seriously, no, in
I
all
mean,
seriousness,
nowadays.
I'm just curious, where could
Well,
Yeah,
and I think
he got the luxury 737 deportment treatment.
yes,
Right?
as
He got the high profile deportment.
Roger, to wrap it up, fantastic reporting. I remember going off of Lev's point, I was looking at your tweets. And Roger, I think there was a plea in one of your tweets. Hey guys, I think you almost did like a hey everyone. I think this is a big story. And then I read it. I read your Substack piece, and I was like, this is a huge story.
huge story.
For the 2,100 people who have tuned in, thank you. I'm talking to Roger Sollenberger. He's a investigative reporter, formerly with the Daily Beast, and through the Epstein files, folks. In the Epstein files, he found a credible accusation against the president of the United States, Donald Trump, which the FBI found credible, and the FBI conducted. How many slideshows? How many slides were in that slideshow, Roger?
It's a 21 slide deck. It was created last summer. It was internal from the FBI Child Sex Trafficking
Wow.
Task Force and joint with FBI Violent Crimes Task Force. They were preparing this thing around the time that Todd Blanche was having his proffer with Ghislaine last summer, that interview, right? And again, this is an obviously credible accusation of Trump sexually assaulting a child. She was 13 to 15 years old. They included it in this presentation, not as an insane, this is not like insane claims about Donald Trump or whatever. This is prominent names, and it has a whole list of claims on it. They cite her directly. The FBI spoke with this person, had a lot of back and forth between this person's attorneys. She lawyered up, right? She sued the Epstein estate. She got a
One.
settlement. Reportedly, as that lawsuit's been reported, she got a settlement from the Epstein estate. The claims about Epstein and the claims about Trump were around the same time. She says in the lawsuit that Epstein took her from South Carolina up to New York City, where she met with wealthy individuals and intimate gatherings, I believe is the phrase from her lawsuit. And this is a super, is it true? I don't know if it's true. I'm not trying to make the case that we should believe the accusation. I'm trying to make the case that the FBI found this person to be credible And that does not mean that an offense is chargeable, right? That does not mean that she would have cooperated in any investigation to Trump. In fact, in the interview she gave the FBI, her attorney says that she has fears of retaliation from public figures, and she only wanted to talk about Epstein clearly in this interview. So the question is, why did the FBI find this credible? Why did they, put it in this presentation? They flagged it internally, right, this summer. What do you make of this? And how does this make any sense with what Bondi, Cash, Blanche, the White House, Donald Trump himself, all of his enablers, all of his defenders who are just pretending and trying to get everybody else to pretend to believe? To pretend to believe. That's what they're doing. To get them to pretend to believe that Donald Trump had nothing to do, no knowledge with any of this, right? That he was just a good soldier and then he was just a
You,
fun guy. And
so,
then he's a creep and kicked him out of his club.
you know the crazy
Completely
part?
inconsistent.
You know the
I
crazy part?
gotta bounce. Well, go ahead, Lev, real quick, because
Just
I gotta
quickly, yeah,
invite
quick.
Virginia in a minute.
I'm sorry, yeah, just quickly. The crazy part is the MO. It's the same. This is
That's
not
right.
the first one. This is the second credible witness, not witness, I mean credible complaint, because you also have Katie Johnson, also a 13 to something year girl, also filed a complaint with the credible attorneys, also is similar 13-year-old having Donald Trump wanting her to do oral stuff. Also, complaining
This
that
claim is not Katie Johnson. I need to be clear.
no, I know.
This
No,
is,
I'm not saying
just
no,
for the
no, no. That
audience,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because people are
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
speculating. They
No, no,
speculate
no.
that it's
I'm
not
the
Katie
opposite.
Johnson.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm saying to you, this is the opposite. This is another credible 13 to 15-year-old girl that is claiming that Donald Trump or Epstein has raped her. That's what I want to say.
Yeah,
Absolutely. This is
it's the
not.
same.
This
It's
is
the same pattern.
MO.
It's the
Same
same
pattern, same
MO,
exactly.
allegations. The same type of again and again and again. And also, Roger, to put a pin on it, can you tell us about that? The dates, the coincidence of the dates.
Oh yeah. So the interview with the FBI, according to my reporting, you can look this up. It's all linked there. That gave an interview after back and forth with the attorneys. They set it up for July 24th, 2019. That's the date on the form, says that's when it happened. And then after 16 days, they enter this write-up of the interview called a 302 into the system. That's the date on the file. It says August 9th, 2019. Now, Frank Figluzzi told me that FBI agents typically have 5 days to file these things. So they blew that by, looks like, about 11 days, right? And the next morning, after this is entered into the case file, right, into the case management system, Epstein is found dead in his jail cell the next morning.
The timing. Oh,
It's just wild. I mean, even if it's not related, I mean, it is fucking wild.
it's yeah. That the second that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is credibly implicated, and there's an accuser, and it's filed. The next day, Epstein is found dead in his jail cell. Roger, fantastic reporting, sir. Roger Sollenberger, investigative reporter. First time he's been on the Left Hook. I hope it wasn't too painful, Roger, and you can come back. Shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
Oh, just read my stuff on my Substack. I've got a report about Corey Mills that took me 10 months to do, and it's
Wow.
insane. It is insane. There's I think 3 different or 4 different stories about that. Go read those. They're crazy.
And Lev, shamelessly promote yourself.
Folks, Love remembers, definitely go follow Roger. Doesn't do a good job. You gotta go follow Roger. He does incredible reporting, incredible independent journalist. Welcome him here to Substack. Give him a follow Substack, and definitely, if you can, he has a small child, so all the paid subscribers helps. Believe me. So,
No
folks,
paid. No paid.
no paid. Wow, no
Roger,
paid. Wow, all
this
free. Look at that, all free. So
Roger,
make sure to
this is,
subscribe.
you're a terrible capitalist like me. This is Left Hook. There's no paywalls. So at the very least, go and subscribe to Roger. It's the least you can do. It's fantastic reporting. I've linked to his fantastic investigative report where, folks, he found in the Epstein files. It's all there. It's all there. He found it. He screenshotted it. He connected the dots. There are questions that need to be answered, and this is a story that should be headline news. There is a young, well, there is a woman who has credibly accused according to the FBI, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, of sexual assault. I don't know. Think it's kind of a big deal that the fact. Well, if you don't think it's a big deal, guess what? The FBI thought it was a big deal, and they even made a presentation about it in 2025. Thank you, Roger. Folks, I have Virginia up in a second. Thank you, Lev. Thanks,
Thank you,
Roger.
guys.
Thanks a lot, Roger. I had a
Take
great
care,
time.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Virginia Heffernan, guys. Virginia's fantastic. Stick around for this. Virginia wrote a fantastic piece about in the Verve. I'm going to actually send it. Give me 1 second. Let me bring in Virginia. She's been waiting for 2 minutes. Thank you, Virginia. Oh, well, you got two. I see the one that Virginia's using.